Before we invite the ambassador up for a few comments, I just wanted to, in addition to the names that Dr. Boaz mentioned, Wesley Chenault, Kimberly Sapar, Antonia Vassar, and of course Gregory Kimbrell of the staff of the library, who really played a very crucial role in helping us to pull this together and really made us feel very welcomed here. Of course, from the Dean's office, and she's not around, there's the irreplaceable Mrs. Marquita Aguilar, who's usually at the helm of most of these things. In any case, Mr. Ambassador, we welcome you to make a few comments about this.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Christopher, for pulling this all together in a relatively short time and making such a wonderful occasion of bringing a couple of Africans to Virginia. Thank you very much for friendship, and thanks very much also for being a great friend of Africa, whether it's in the field of anthropology or in the fight against HIV and AIDS and academic exchanges. Generally, I think that we have brought the seh-DEE-ba fossils simply out of recognition that maybe it takes one key champion to create a whole institutional channel between the USA and South Africa, and that the origin of that channel could well be at the Virginia Commonwealth University. Mr. Dean, thank you very much for putting this entire faculty at the disposal of the seh-DEE-ba fossils and making it really one in which South Africa has the ability to showcase a delightfully unexpected image of Africa. And Dr. Boaz, I think that other than the technical work with Leslie and company to put the seh-DEE-ba fossils on display in the unique way in which you have, we can never go back to a horizontal position after what you've done. So thank you very much for showing how better it can be displayed and more meaning, but thank you very much also for your ability to look at it with the eye of a scientist and to see new dimensions to it and to teach that to us. And hopefully the few insights that you have already shared with me will be the basis of something that I think will occasion new debates, because I think that such artifacts of history, if they don't encourage debate, they become nothing other than an act of exhibitionism. And I think that you've turned it into something really lively, and the wonderful way in which you've woven the story of paleontology and anthropology into a whole number of other anecdotes, I think really have brought some great human touches to it. So I need to thank all of you for what you have done. You know, it was Pliny the Elder who remarked many decades ago, out of Africa, always something new, something unexpected, something surprising. And if one focused on the word new, then one would probably think, what is this new thing that Africa has sprung on the world in the last few months? And it was the wonderful choice of South Africa and Africa to host 80% of the square kilometer array telescope. And this will be the most powerful telescope, radio telescope, that the world will ever see. And its power will be to penetrate the universes, to even begin to understand the origin of the stars, to dissect energy patterns in the universe, and to examine things like dark matter. And all of that really looks like forward-looking science at its best. And it certainly promises to do that, because just the implications for information and communication technology means that the next generation of ICTs will probably be developed around the square kilometer array telescope, because the implications for data capturing data storage, data analysis, and data dissemination is going to be so enormous that you need to have new generations, because it is said that in the first 2 weeks of capturing data, the first 2 weeks worth of information would supersede what humankind has accumulated up till now. But even in the act of putting together the Square Kilometre Array telescope, there is one simple commonality with the seh-DEE-ba fossil. And that is that for humankind to advance forward, it may have to look back. Because what the Square Kilometre Array telescope intends to do is to find the origin of life itself, to pick up the delayed light that will come from the first star, and to try and understand through an examination of that delayed light, which may only now be in our reach, what happened billions of years ago. And in understanding that, we may better understand how to harness the energy of the universes, what this phenomenon of life is, where we come from. And I say that because I'm a graduate of humanities and arts education. And you may almost be made to feel yourself fossilized, that you chose that as an education. In a world that just wants to get on with science, with engineering, with all of those kind of things. And the danger is that we may make enormous advances in all of those areas, but lose our anchor. Lose a sense of identity. Lose a sense of our origins. And we may well be in danger of all becoming fairly atomized professionals, de-linked from a common human impulse. And at the end of the day, the vehicle of our progress, science and technology, may well be the accelerator of our dehumanization. And so when we present I've got to say this carefully and slowly, Australopithecus, seh-DEE-ba, as an instrument almost of diplomacy, it is because we have had the benefits of a Nelson Mandela, a Desmond Tutu, a Chris Barnard, and 2 other Nobel laureates. Not science laureates, unfortunately, but peace laureates. And what makes a small country on the southern tip of Africa produce, in a matter of 4 decades, 4 Nobel Peace Prize laureates? And is there something in the DNA of people like Nelson Mandela, Desmond Tutu, F.W. de Klerk, Albert Luthuli, a recipe that the world desperately searches for? And what, in the way in which we present the seh-DEE-ba fossils as an act of diplomacy, are we trying to say about how to make this world far more humane, far more gentle, far more connected, far more concerned, and far more interdependent with other human beings? And so how does looking back take us forward? And that really, I think, is why we gathered today in this library at the Virginia Commonwealth University. It's to find old ways to solve current problems. For Africa, it's a way to rethink and to recast ourselves. The last 400 years have been terrible years in the life of Africa. Initially by what was done unto us, and later what was done by us. But that cannot be the sum total of how people see Africa. And it may have to start with Africans themselves seeing themselves differently. I'm reminded about the little story of Professor Guy de Maupassant, one of the great French philosophers, who remarked to his students one day that the Eiffel Tower must be the ugliest building in the world. And his students said, "But Professor, you have your lunch in it every day." And Professor Guy de Maupassant said, "Yeah, because when I'm in it, I don't have to see it." And in very much the same way, we who are in Africa often don't see it until the seh-DEE-ba fossils come along and it begins to inject in us a new sense of identity, a new sense of mission in the world, a new way of understanding ourselves and presenting ourselves, and to put back that dignity that was systematically stripped of us over 400 years of slavery, 400 years of colonialism, 400 years of post-colonial experiments, 400 years of being the theater for the Cold War to play itself out, and 400 years of absolute degradation, whether it be at the hands of diseases like HIV and AIDS, whether it be at the hands of hunger caused by poverty, whether it is at the hands of the systematic deprivation of the human mind because we have not understood how to embrace education and knowledge in the ways, and were never allowed really to do it. I think suddenly these and other fossils come along and really say that we have a responsibility to be more than what we are. We have a responsibility to not be victims of history, but agents in the way in which the world goes forward. That we have a responsibility to pull ourselves up and to act as the originators of the human species. There can be many scientific debates about whether this is in the Homo or the and so forth. There can be many debates in that nature, but I think that what seems to be a sense is that we have been a significant part of the cradle of humankind. And maybe I think that is the spur to us to really act in ways which I think live up to that. Fortunately, at many levels, Africa is showing its ability to rise up. But maybe in rising up, it shouldn't mimic the growth rates and the consumption rates and the technological rates simply of other parts of the world. It has to do so, fully cognizant of a great human impulse that the world requires more of today rather than less. We are not here simply to imitate what other successful nations have, but in a sense to try and correct where others have gone wrong in their push for what they've defined as their holy grail. So I want to really thank VCU, this library, all the people involved for not only housing the fossils, but for helping to restore our dignity on the continent of Africa. With this injection of dignity, I think many more things become possible. And our awareness especially that we have a contribution to make more than the natural resources, but in the human resources. Not in the simple skill style, but in human interdependence encapsulated by the notion of Ubuntu. In the words of Nelson Mandela, I am because you are. In the words of Archbishop Tutu, we are people through other people. If the seh-DEE-ba fossils can lead us back to that lost art of humanity, then I think this exhibition would have been absolutely worthwhile. Thank you very much.
I think I had it. Well, Ambassador, thank you. Every time I get to hear you speak, I want to hand over the keys to the dean's office. And that's for good things, because you articulate so spectacularly what the humanities and sciences do for society and how they come together and their importance in our future. You know, I feel like the universities were founded for people to come together as a community to research and ask questions and learn about the most pressing and interesting problems of human nature. And you touched on that so beautifully. So what we are presenting you with is the job of dean. Please go ahead and present.
Well, it is with very great pleasure, Mr. Ambassador, that I was asked to present this to you on behalf of Virginia Commonwealth University, the Virginia Museum of Natural History, as well as the International Institute for Human Evolutionary Research. So, thank you,
very much. And thank you very much for a wonderful
Thank
job
you.
that you've done with this advice.
Well, I guess we have more. Do I get to present this? Why don't we, or how many of the folks here have worked in South Africa? Christopher, why don't you all come up and give this gift from the VCU faculty and get the picture. So, have you met everybody?
Hi.
Hi, I'm usually the active students.
Yes,
And Sean, you've met? Okay. Well, here you go.
yeah,
I'll let you decide whether to open it now. Or...
we should indulge our natural curiosity.
Yeah. Oops.
Oh,
Humanity the science of Sean. Which we hope
he's
you-
in us. For Rashida. My wife was the original pioneer to VCU, and she came back extolling its virtues, and I had no choice but to follow. So, thank you very much.
And we have one more presentation.
I also have a gift for you, Ambassador. I traveled to South Africa with a group of students and dignitaries from Richmond to study at the Malala Institute. They do work on oral history and memory work with survivors of apartheid. And here in Richmond and in Virginia, we have a similar system, which is called Jim Crow segregation. And during the 50s, students were locked out of school because they refused to integrate the schools. And so we came back and did an oral history based on our training in South Africa. And so I want to present you with a t-shirt that we gave our folks that says, "I survived massive resistance." This was the concept of we'll close the schools and no one will go to school rather than let the black kids come to school with the white kids. And so we owe a lot to South Africa and the training we received there and the welcome we received, and I want to present this to you on behalf of our team.
Thanks very much. Thank you very much.